Okay, good stuff. Let's go. Let's do it. Okay, we're looking at a pretty interesting start to the week for the stock market today. Things are looking pretty interesting. Obviously, companies like Iran announced their earnings on August 27th, and we're seeing Nebius actually be relatively tame today. I was expecting a lot more bullish activity out of Nebius. Honestly, down 1% isn't a huge, it's not terrible, I would say. But the earnings for Nebius come out on Wednesday, and then for CoreWeave, we have earnings tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern time. And, as everybody knows, I've been very loud about my short position on CoreWeave. I'm definitely not shy about calling BS on companies that have bad business models like CoreWeave. So we're going to find out on Tuesday, tomorrow, after market close, if CoreWeave, beats expectations or not. But kind of an interesting today, a bit of a tug of war going on between the S&P and NASDAQ. Not turbulent though as last week. Obviously, there were some really big movers today, particularly Palantir. I think was probably the highlight for a lot of people, up 2% to $176 a share. A lot of people very bullish on Palantir after their fantastic results for Q2 2026. So a lot to like about what Palantir accomplished, and a lot of bullish price action and price discovery. So there's a lot to kind of unpack there. And I personally, I'm not bullish on Palantir. Fundamentally, I think Palantir has done a fantastic job as a company to grow. And I think that Palantir has done a lot of very impressive things with their business model. It's expensive for me, though. I'm not going to get into Palantir at this price. Honestly, I would expect there to be some correction with Palantir. I was thinking about entering a short position with the company the other week, but we'll see. Sam says Halo. Are we looking at Halazim Therapeutics? I've seen these guys before, Sam. Not super familiar with them, if I'm going to be honest. Sandra, appreciate the daily live me. Thank you so much, or heart me. And we'll definitely take a look at UMG. Biopharmaceutical products, Sam, is something that's definitely a weak spot for me. I'm still working on improving my knowledge and understanding of how all this stuff works. This isn't something that is my strong suit. It looks like it could be a pretty good business. As far as what they specifically treat, I would love to know what your bull thesis is on them. And then UMG, we can look at UMG. Universal Music Group. Is this the one that we're looking at, Sandro? Or are we looking at something else? Because if we need to look at something else, we can definitely check that out. So as far as these guys are concerned, I actually haven't looked at the fundamentals of UMG in a very long time. Very briefly looked at them a while back. Trading at about 87x earnings, and here's what the fundamentals have looked like year over year since 2023. And we'll go to a quarterly basis to kind of zoom in a bit. Yeah, it looks like the quarterly data is messed up a little bit. So as far as what this stock is, how it's concerned, it probably does have a strong moat. I think you might be right. It looks like it might be free cash flow positive as well. Balance sheet does look a little bit bloated, so I'm be curious to know what the interest rate is on all of that debt. It looks like they can still get out a nice, 12.3% margin. As far as how that compares to their peer group, not 100% sure. A 3.4% dividend yield at this valuation is pretty interesting as well. I was not expecting to see something that high. It could be an interesting play. It's near 52-week lows. And as far as what its performance has been this year, it hasn't been great. I'd love to know what happened right here, because this looks like maybe bad guidance or a bad earnings report or something like this. Probably pushed things down south a bit. Love to know why this is. So it could be a good entry opportunity potentially, but I'd need to do more homework on them. Can we check out SMCI? Yes. And LHX? Yeah, we can look at these guys. As far as SMCI, I think SMCI's I liked SMCI. They had a very good day today. I think that SMCI has kind of been one of the they've kind of flown under the radar a little bit. We're going to get their earnings tomorrow, and it'll be exciting to see how things go. As far as like the, being in the semiconductor space and being a key player in data center development, I think that there's probably a good opportunity to maybe look at these guys. Fundamentally speaking, they're very cheap. So I'm curious as to know, I'd like to know why that is, because they've been cheap for a while. So that's another thing that I'd like to kind of wonder. I need to do my due diligence on this company though. Sandra, appreciate the gifts. Thank you. Broke gutted about Keel today. I knew they would bleed money. They have $850 million in available funds. Yeah, did Keel have are they having a bad day today? Yeah, they are. Oof. People were asking me a lot about these guys a while back. I wasn't a big fan of them. I knew that they were losing money. I knew it was a risky play, and sometimes this is what happens with these small cap plays. You get burned pretty bad and they run out of cash. So I'd guess that they're probably going to have to maybe raise money. Again, I didn't see the whole entire earnings call. I'd have to see the entire earnings report, but pretty ugly. And still definitely gonna stay away from them, to be honest. Lucid, Davgon, I don't invest in automotives. So Lucid, I'm not a fan of any automotive company. AppLovin's a gem. Did we see some recovery for them? Not really. I mean, for anybody who's curious or anybody who saw, this is pretty ugly. They definitely got some very bad guidance and some bad earnings on their digital marketing revenue streams. This isn't great. If it's a gem, it could be. What's going to cause a breakout back up to around the $400 level, though? That's what I want to know with these guys. There could be reason to like them, and they've recovered slightly, but this might be kind of another IBM. What about CoreWeave tomorrow? I know that CoreWeave is expected to do somewhere around $2.5 billion in revenue, and I think it's like $2.20 in losses per share. Still not excited about CoreWeave. I hope that they're really going to fall apart again, because I'm a bear on CoreWeave. But if AppLovin's a gen, I'd like to know. Coherent and Rocket Lab. How did Rocket Lab do? Because we definitely need to look at that as well. Down a bit today. $2.2 billion backlog. That's pretty exciting. We'll see. I mean, with Rocket Lab, here's the thing, and I put Rocket Lab kind of in the same bucket as ASTS as well. Is Rocket Lab it's a massive execution risk. I know that they've had some contracts awarded to them. Same with ASTS. It's very risky. It's very risky. I think that they're probably gonna, they're still. I don't think they're gonna be profitable, but the market may award them based on guidance. It's going to be guidance that's going to move this stock price 100%. So we'll find out, Evan, with them. Are you still invested in Nebius before their earnings tomorrow? Trent, no, I'm not invested in Nebius. Honestly, I'd probably short them. NeoClouds is a business model overall I'm not a huge fan of. There are some that are going to be winners, some that are going to be losers. Nebius might be a winner. It's definitely not the best of the pack, but not the worst. Dr. Octopus on YouTube says, thoughts on Adobe and SAP? To be honest, Adobe still feels like a value trap to me. And with SAP, I mean, solid company. I'd probably pick SAP over them if I had to choose. We'll see though. Adobe, here's the thing. A lot of people have been discounting Adobe and like how they're going to adapt AI wise and what they're going to do to change their products and services to be better, but it still feels like a bit of a value trap. What's the best new cloud you like? What the fuck you on about? Well, so here's the thing. It would probably be Iran, but I still don't love it because NeoClouds are competing with the own people. They're competing with their own customers, and they're also competing with other companies or other like they're competing with their own customers. Some of them are hyperscalers, and a lot of them are using an insane amount of debt to finance all of that. And they also, some of them have circular financial relationships with NVIDIA. So if I had to pick one, it'd probably be IREN, but I'm not a huge fan of it. Am I going to gamble any earnings today? No, not today. I'm holding all my positions for now. What stocks are you most confident will gain in the next year based on my analysis? I'm very bullish on Take-Two Interactive. I think that's one that's going to perform really well. I'm also bullish on Reddit. I like Reddit as well. Makes sense. And then what do you think about SoFi and ServiceNow? With SoFi and ServiceNow, honestly, I'd rather pick ServiceNow. ServiceNow is at the point where I think that if it breaks out above 135 a share, that might be a good place to take profits. I called the bottom at around 93 a share. The local bottom, that is. My target price for them was around that point. I would hold. I'm not going to get into ServiceNow at this price, but if it corrects again, it could be an interesting play. But I think it re-enters overvaluation territory if it breaks out above 135. USAR. USAR I know has been a popular one. As far as the rare earths that they have access to and the things that they do, it's a great company to be exposed to if that's the type of exposure that you want. I believe they're in palladium, samarium. Yeah, so they have samarium and they have some others like gallium, neodymium. Maybe not palladium, but I know there's no futures market for a lot of that stuff. So this would be the way to get exposure to that. The problem is it's losing money. Oracle, please. Oracle, honestly, Oracle's not like... Oracle has some pretty big credit risk with OpenAI. I mean, I posted a video just the other day on ranking all the hyperscalers. Oracle's in last place by far out of all 5 of them. I'm staying away from Oracle. A lot of people are saying, oh, it's a bargain at this price at 26x earnings. There is a massive credit risk. And that backlog of like 138 billion, I'm not super excited about. Intuit, I feel like is in the same boat as Adobe. There are things to like about Intuit. It still feels like a little bit of a value trap. I know that they have a decent moat and they have good brand recognition through things like, Credit Karma and things like, TurboTax, all that kind of stuff. QuickBooks is a fantastic software. So I know they have good staying power. So it's honestly, I'd say it's about the growth assumptions in each of those lines of business. So, yeah. Lam Research. Sasha, I like Lam Research. They've got solid fundamentals. There's a lot to like about Lam Research. I hold their biggest competitor, Applied Materials. So, Olaf, what's going on? Hey. All signs point to commodities. Which ones, though? Waste Management still a good time to get in. I think Waste Management is still a fantastic defensive play. No, I mean, I like them at this price. It's like solid company. You get a decent yield out of them too. The moat that Waste Management has is nearly untouchable in a lot of ways. Huge fan of them. Thoughts on TeraWulf? TeraWulf, again, I'm not super stoked on. NeoClouds in general, just not a huge fan of them. Can I risk putting all my money in MU? I got $1,000 saved in the bank. Edgar, if you want to, go for it. I'm not going to stop you. Do I know SoFi? Any opinions? SoFi, I'm really not that excited about. It's been a bad year, honestly, for SoFi. It's been like not great. It was probably overvalued at the beginning of the year. We've seen a lot of resistance at $20 a share around that neighborhood. I don't know what's going to cause the breakout with SoFi. I need to do a little bit more homework on them, but basically for what's essentially a bank with some extra bells and whistles, not huge. Not huge. A huge fan of it. But aren't NeoClouds crucial for AI development? For now, they are. A lot of neoclouds are essentially a bridge solution for a lot of hyperscalers. And basically they're building the capacity now such that they believe that compute demand is going to grow at near exponential rates for the foreseeable future. I don't think that's sustainable. And especially companies like CoreWeave that use a massively irresponsible amount of debt to finance all that. Like with Nebius, I know that there's some people here on TikTok and other platforms who are like huge fans of companies like Nebius and these types of things. Nebius, like, again, it's expensive and unprofitable. I'd pick Nebius over CoreWeave, but to be honest, it's still not much better. Bullish on Invesco S&P 500 Momentum ETF, or would you buy something else? That's a solid ETF. We share 100% of the same takes. See if we can find any different ones then, because I'd like to know. SoFi CEO just bought $250K worth of his own stock, so she knows something. Management does that all the time. That's nothing special. CEOs and board members do that all the time with all types of publicly traded companies. This isn't anything new. I think Uber's a good buy. I know that Uber, there's been some movement with respect to Uber and like some politicians getting in on it. There are definitely things to like about Uber. It seems like that they're growing. I wasn't super excited about them. I'm still not like fully convinced of them. The reason why I'd be really excited about Uber is if they acquire Grab. And in that case, I'd probably just buy shares in Grab, but it's not expensive. It's got good fundamentals. I probably underestimated the growth, but we'll see. My largest holding, Evan, is Apple. Salesforce feels like a bit of a dinosaur, to be honest. At least compared to their competitors like ServiceNow. I like being priced at 23 times earnings when some of its biggest competitors are priced at around 60, 70 times earnings tells you something. Now, with that being said, doesn't mean that Salesforce can't turn things around, and it is just a bigger business than some others. But like comparing ServiceNow and Salesforce, ServiceNow has had more exciting price discovery and price movement, but Salesforce's fundamentals arguably are stronger. Intel, there was some. So here's the thing: the Intel story is a bit of a roller coaster at the moment. It's down nearly 3% today because they have to issue money. So if you're an Intel shareholder, you're going to get diluted, which is not good. And unless they decide to do something special, like a pipe offering or something like this. But with Intel, I'm not like, they were probably running low on cash, or they need it for working capital. That's what they said, which makes sense because they probably do need that amount of money to manage their working capital. But their Q2 results were fantastic. They were really, really awesome. So I think that with Intel, it's still too expensive for me. I'm going to sit on the sidelines for them. My opinion is AI bubble, or is it just starting to grow? AI is a bubble. It's a bubble. Valuations are getting too stretched. But AI is like, there's some similarities to be drawn between now and the dot-com bubble. The market overhyped way too many things way too fast back then in 2000, 2001. But the internet was there to stay, and it has. I think AI is similar. AI is here to stay, and there's going to be some winners and there's going to be some losers. I think that we probably will see a correction. I'm not going to say when or by how much, though, because it's really hard to call. Should I buy more TTWO or white fiber? I haven't taken a look at white fiber, so I can tell you I still like TTW at this price. It's had a good day, and I'm still very bullish on this company. Really like it at this price still. Would you buy JP Morgan since they're more profitable than Visa and MasterCard? Yeah, and I also own shares in JP Morgan. Visa and MasterCard, a lot of what their revenue is made is on volume, is on transaction volume, and they don't do quite the same things. Like, they don't really do all the same things that JP Morgan does. So I'd rather own shares in a bank. Bernie Sanders said he wants the holiday diet development of president with that mindset gets elected. Will we see a crash in the AI sector? Well, I think we're going to see a correction regardless. Can you explain how waste management, a defensive play, just get it for dividends? Code Monkey, it's a defense. Waste management's a defensive play because it's reached full maturity. The business itself has reached full maturity. It basically has realized the total accessible market, or at least the garbage disposal industry. The total accessible market for that has been realized. It's now essentially a competition between like it and a couple of others. So what Waste Management decided to do is they had decided to kind of horizontally expand because they're pretty vertically integrated at this point. I mean, Waste Management makes money the moment they pick up trash at your curb to the moment that decomposed trash turning into methane is sold to an electric power plant or something like this. So they did something a couple of years ago where they bought a company called Stericycle to get in the medical waste business. And I think that's an interesting move for them. And to be honest, it's a pretty low beta. So you're not going to see an insane amount of movement in the company's stock price, and you'll get a nice little yield out of it. I don't think it's that bad. Is Meta a strong buy for the long term? Nate, I'd rather get another hyperscaler than Meta. My favorite right now is Microsoft. Google is in a very close second place, though. They also make money via transport. Yeah, Mark, they make money in all kinds of ways. Waste Management does. Yeah, to be honest, right now, Microsoft is my favorite hyperscaler. But if you like, I would totally get the case if somebody liked Google more because they're both very close. I like them both. And I think that with Love 30s and 40s, thank you so much. Appreciate the gifts. Yeah, so I like Microsoft the most out of all of them. Meta, I place in 4th place out of the 5. Can you take a look at YB and tell me what you think? The valuations looks really good. Yeah, for sure, Evan. Let's check them out. Yuan Bo. Okay. To be honest, haven't heard of these guys, so let's see what kind of business they're in. They're Chinese insurance brokerage. Okay. Interesting. So they're a broker, not necessarily an insurance company. And they're listed. Where are they listed at? Listed on the NASDAQ. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Evan, this is what I would consider like 2.3 times earning. That's kind of wild. A 9% yield. Revenue's grown quite a bit. They're at a 46% margin as of 2025. How do they look quarterly? Not bad. Q3. So a lot of revenue. So wait a second. Holding company which provides online national distribution services, million medical insurance, comprehensive. Okay. So they're an insurer, but also an insurance brokerage and agency license services in the PRC. This is strange because it's extremely cheap. And here's what its performance looked like, at least according to Barron's, has been over the last 3 quarters. This is odd. I mean, the valuation, price to sales is insane. Long-term debt to equity is below 0.5. So why hasn't the market figured that out yet? because it hasn't had a great year. And it got listed on the NASDAQ in May of last year, and it's just kind of been meh. Yeah, I don't know. This is weird. What do you think about SMCI earnings tomorrow? I think they'll probably be strong. Where do I place NVIDIA? What do you mean, Anthony? Like, as far as like, do I like it or I'm not sure I understand your question fully. Like, what exactly are you asking? Alex Karp and Palantir is owning me. Here's the thing. Yes, I'm not a fan of Alex Karp. I mean, that's no secret. I've always said though that I'm a fan of what the business performance of Palantir Technologies has been. Their growth has been insane. The margins they make and everything that they've done so far in their company has been extremely strong. But the price is still very high. It's pretty expensive, at least for me. SK Hynix or SK Hynix, solid company, very solid pick. I'm new to this. Do I buy before or after earnings, or does it depend? Nate, I don't make investments based upon single, like, most recent performance or most recent quarterly reports. That's not how I do things. I take a look as it is, whether the latest quarterly report was yesterday or whether it's 2 months from now. It doesn't have a huge impact on how I look at a company. I look at the most updated information I can, and do my fundamental and technical analysis from there. So it's a variety of different ways. What do I think about Enbridge? Ollie, I need a ticker for that. Do I think SanDisk will go back to all-time highs? No. Not meaning above like $2,000 a share, probably not anytime soon. What about Lumentum earnings tomorrow? Good or bad? I think they'll probably. I think we'll see a slight beat, Eric. They may land right within expectations. My favorite ETF Matai is VOO. Kind of a boring answer, but I know. Should I sell my Palantir shares? Vanessa, are you happy with the profits you currently have? And my thoughts on SK Hynix, because I know a couple of people have asked. SK Hynix, the fundamentals are there. It's definitely an interesting valuation at this point. Their Korea's version of Micron, right? Extremely strong performance. A lot to like about SK Hynix. So if you're somebody who wants exposure to a different geographic exposure to semiconductors and these types of things, then yeah, SK Hynix might be a good one. Free cash flow positive, like all this stuff. It's quite strong. So yes, I am a fan of SK Hynix. Do I think NVIDIA can go above 240? It's certainly capable of that. The question is, will it? That's kind of a technical question. It's certainly possible. I'm not going to, could it go above 240 before the end of the year? Yeah. Will it? I'd kind of have to look and see where the support and resistance levels are. Thoughts on MP Materials? Pretty good. Pretty good one. Berkshire putting cash to work. Change your view. I think that Greg Abel he's a capable guy. I think he's a smart guy. I think buying that home builder was an interesting move. They're still sitting on an absolutely insane amount of cash. I mean, it's something like $365 billion of cash. It's crazy. Berkshire B at this point is basically an ETF. It's basically an insurance and like consumer defensive consumer, that I should say, like consumer goods defensive ETF. I mean, they're in all kinds of stuff. They have all kinds of brands. A solid defensive pick that has a lot to like about it, to be honest. So I think if you're nervous about where the market's headed, BRKB might not be a bad choice. What about Grab for long-term hold at that price? Jasper, Grab's interesting because I could see them maybe getting bought by Uber. All right, thoughts on ENBTO? Never heard of these guys. Enbridge Inc. Okay, so they're in Toronto, Canadian company, it looks like. Oil and energy, all right. Based out of Calgary, okay. Yeah, so they're infrastructure. So they've got gas distribution and storage. Got it, blah, blah, blah. Cool. It's a pretty solid yield. Let's go look at their most recent fundamentals because I know that Canadian Energy is like 5.2% yield, not bad. 27x earnings. How have the fundamentals look? Yeah, solid revenue growth. And quarterly things aren't bad. 5.2% margin. That feels about right. And what's the beta on this thing? Because that'll kind of give us an idea. Yeah, 0.44 beta. I'd call this a very solid defensive play just based on what I'm seeing right now. You'll collect a nice yield out of this, and if you want energy exposure and not quite oil companies, but getting into, oil and natural gas distribution, not a bad pick. I think you'd have to do some I'd have to take a look at the filings and take a look at how things are going in that regard and what analyst expectations are and how sensitive they are to the price of oil and gas at the moment, like how that affects their business. So I'd need to see that. Overall view of space stocks, Katie, I'm very long term. I'm bullish on space stocks, of course. There's a lot of overvalued companies at the moment, as well as company like SpaceX is overvalued. I think Rocket Lab's too expensive. There's a lot that needs to happen. It's a lot of execution risk. Why is AMD slowing down? I don't know, but to be honest, AMD is not something I pay a ton of attention to, just because Nvidia is better than AMD in almost every category. Thoughts on Nebius and thoughts on CoreWeave. If I had to pick the two, I would pick Nebius. CoreWeave, I'm a massive bear on. CoreWeave is a company whose entire business model is built on quicksand. This is not a good business. It's a bad model, massive amounts of debt. I don't care that their revenue is growing. Their losses are expanding faster. I don't care that they have a massive backlog. I don't care they have 43 data centers. This is not a good business. Their model is weak. Their pricing power is eroding, and they have to continue to finance themselves with debt. It's not good. Favorite pick in the healthcare sector right now? To be honest, I'd probably pick Eli Lilly. Novo Nordisk is another really strong one, though. Joe says, 45% of my portfolio is in the S&P and want to switch to an all-world tracker. Should I sell and rebuy or just average in? I'd DCA in, Joe. Because I don't, what's the advantage? I need an idea on Hims earnings today. I'm long big time. Hims and Hers, I thought was like this. I was expecting them to make more money than they were. Now I know that they were going, they had to, I believe that they passed some regulatory approvals with the FDA. And there's a lawsuit going on with them or something like that at the moment. And if their earnings call go well, I mean, it could be a bullish indicator. They're not making as much money as I thought they would. I still need to do more research on them, though. Why do you have faith in Novo? It just doesn't want to move. Strong fundamentals with Novo Nordisk, and I mean they're the best European GLP-1 maker. That's why I prefer Eli Lilly though. You still holding SpaceX or sold? I sold SpaceX a long time ago. I sold SpaceX at 221 per share right after the IPO. I got in and then got right out. It's interesting that SpaceX is trading at this price. I'm not a fan of this valuation. I'm not interested in buying SpaceX until I see it correct quite a bit. Thoughts on T1 Energy? Yeah, Anthony, I know you've been asking. Let's take a look. I believe these guys are solar, no? Solar module cells in the U.S., Norway, and internationally. So, okay, photovoltaic solar modules. Yeah. I think they're losing quite a bit of money, no? And year to date, it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride. Pretty big beta. Yeah, it looks like they're losing money. We can go look at their fundamentals here, or at least just the three statements over a certain period of time. Quite a bit of short interest. Almost 21% of the float's being shorted. Yeah, not pretty. Granted, this is kind of old information, but I would imagine it's not getting much better over time. I'd have to take a look at their balance sheet because evidently it's ugly. Anthony, as far as T1 Energy, I'm probably gonna pass on these guys. How'd you know SpaceX was going to correct after hitting 225? Because almost, well, here's why I knew SpaceX was going to go up. The hype for SpaceX was insane. They couldn't issue enough shares for SpaceX. They could not the demand could not be satisfied for SpaceX shares before its IPO. And it was the biggest IPO ever in the history of the stock market, a $75 billion IPO. It was insane, absolutely insane. Of course, people are going to flood in to SpaceX, and of course the share price is going to explode. But like every other IPO ever, almost every other IPO ever, there's a pretty sharp correction. To me, it probably got a little bit lucky, but I also knew that, like, look, this is going to correct, and it's going to correct hardcore, and I sold. I got out. Would you get into Eli Lilly at its current price? Wow. Wow, Eli Lilly has had a really, yeah, look at that. Just an insanely good start to the month. To be honest, yes. I mean, I haven't posted a deep dive on Eli Lilly to my YouTube channel. I have here on TikTok. It wasn't quite as in depth as I wanted it to be. There's a lot to like Eli Lilly at this price, though. And the thing is that Eli Lilly moves more than something like Novo Nordisk does, but there's still a lot to like about both. Am I buying SpaceX? No, absolutely not. What's the move now on SpaceX if you're in at 115? If I were in that person's shoes, I would consider taking profits right now. Because here's the thing. The whole thing with AI and SpaceX, I think, is what's driving a lot of the stock's popularity at the moment. To me, I don't understand why they decided to merge those lines of business. I don't get why they decided to merge Falcon and Starlink and Starship with AI. I guess the plan is to put AI data centers in space. It actually is. I read the S1 for SpaceX, like, of course. But it's losing a massive amount of money, and the price to revenue ratio is just asinine. It's going to require a massive amount of cash moving forward. And what's a shame is that the other parts of the company are making money. Are we getting 2 YouTube videos this week? We'll see, Olaf. We'll be getting at least one for sure. NVO is vendor value company compared to Lilly. Yeah, that's true, Jack. But you know what? That's a great point. And there's a reason why. That's another reason why to like Novo Nordisk. They're both great companies. Would I buy USAR? I don't love mining companies, Bob, to be honest, but if I really wanted rare earth exposure, specifically into things like neodymium and samarium, I would consider it. But if there's a futures market for that stuff, I would go after the commodity itself instead of the company. If Tesla merges with SpaceX, does it change your view? It doesn't change the fact that I probably wouldn't invest in either. that would be weird. Guy can hope, right? Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Things are off to a little bit of a slow start, unfortunately. This week for me, at least. Intel, Sash, I'm not a fan of Intel at this price. Too expensive. All right, what do we think on Iran? Too expensive. Probably the healthiest NeoCloud at the moment. You could make the argument for TeraWulf, but I would pick Iran over Nebius and CoreWeave. I don't like Iran at this price. Thoughts on Oracle? It's Vanessa, I don't like the credit risk. To be honest, I think that the forward PE with Oracle is a bit of a facade at the moment because the OpenAI credit risk is huge. I don't think that they have a massive, absolutely massive backlog. That's what caused the stock price to peak to over 300 per share last fall. Obviously, we've seen quite a bit of a correction since. This is the Oracle has a lot of eggs in one basket. And Standard & Poor's said, yeah, we're going to take you from triple B to triple B minus. This is a problem. And besides, the other problem too is that Oracle is massively dependent on OpenAI, and OpenAI has circular financial relationships with companies like Microsoft, Nvidia, etc. Price target on Iran, Cedric, I would consider taking a look at Iran if it went below 50 or $30 a share. Salesforce is relatively undervalued its client stickiness. Jack, ServiceNow does a better job of doing that, even though ServiceNow is more expensive. I think Microsoft will hit an all-time high in 6 months. I don't think that's an unreasonable take. There's a lot of things to like about Microsoft. There's also some things that are problematic too, of course. But, I mean, they knocked it out of the park with their latest earnings report. I was very impressed with Microsoft's results. I think it's also at a very, very interesting valuation at this point. I like Microsoft at this point. Thoughts on Butterfly Network's recent surge? Josh, do we have a ticker for them? And Timon, I need a ticker for Netlist, please. How's CoreWeave in your opinion? A company that is a house of cards built on quicksand. Massively short on these guys. And Nebius, I'm not that much of a fan of Nebius either compared to CoreWeave. What do you think of Nike? Isaac, you can watch my YouTube video on Nike. Oddly enough, I'm bullish on Nike. I've gotten a lot of flack for that, but there are things that I like about Nike. Reddit's still underperforming. Why do you like it so much? Because the fundamentals of Reddit are extremely strong. Extremely strong. There are a ton of things to like about Reddit at this price. I loaded up on more Reddit today. In my view, I think this is a buy the dip opportunity with Reddit. They had very strong revenue growth. And the place where they need to grow, they are showing signs of growing, which is international daily active users outside the US. Obviously, the correction with right here, when basically the Google deal came into question with the content licensing for AI, that caused a bit of a price correction. Not fully that sucked, but I think they'll work it out. It's too valuable an opportunity for Reddit to pass up. They'll make something work with Google, I think. So I'm a huge fan of Reddit at this price. Okay, Netlist. Let's go and look at Netlist. I believe I need a quick refresher on these guys. Yeah, memory subsystems. Yeah, okay. SSD, NAND flash, and okay, right. So, I'd like to know what the it's a small, relatively small player. and it's over the counter, which is like not a huge fan of. I'd have to go read their investor earnings reports because I don't think because it's traded over the counter. I don't know how reliable Barron's picks up this data. From a quarterly perspective, that's a razor thin margin, extremely thin. To be honest, it's a pass. I don't love over the counter stuff to begin with anyway. Could be an interesting move. I would have to be very high conviction play though. You think of ASTS, massive execution risk. What do you think of Archer Aviation? I know that they had a fantastic day today. Not a huge it's cool what they're doing. I would need to understand what the long-term vision is though for them. Is it Micron overvalued at the moment? What's Micron sitting at? To be honest, it doesn't feel like it is. No. I think that there's a lot to like about Micron at this price. Obviously, it's had a pretty insane last couple of months. I mean, since the beginning of June, it's been an interesting ride for Micron. Still has had an amazing year. Still a lot to like about the company. Will we see it go above $1,200 per share again soon? It's possible. I'd say it's less likely than it is, though. Am I late for service now? Sure, wait for a correction. To be honest, I think it's a little late, but if you are holding shares in service now, I'd hang on until it breaks out above 135 if it does. What would be my top stocks to buy right now? I really like Take-Two Interactive. I like Reddit. I'm a fan of Elf Cosmetics, but we're approaching our target price for Elf. Had a bit of a rough day, though. It kind of needed to, just because here's the week it's had. It's been really good. I did a deep dive on Elf right before it had its latest quarterly report. It looked really good, and it was trading at about 72 per share. My target price for Elf is about $100 a share. This is an interesting one. And then there's some Mag 7 right now that are trading at good valuations in my view. My favorite hyperscalers, Microsoft. I like Google a lot too. Is Intel a holder or sell? I'd call Intel a sell. Applied Digital, and what do I think is happening with Netflix? Oops. I'm not a fan of Applied Digital. They should what's frustrating about Applied Digital is this. From a putting on my fundamental lenses right now, like this is really annoying. This is really annoying to look at because, they did $260 million in revenue last quarter, losing $100 million in a space where they should be making money hand over fist, and they just had to raise debt. So they bloated their balance sheet a little bit more. It's going to pinch free cash flow. And the revenue surge is fine, but I think to be honest, I think companies like Supermicro Computer I'd pick them over these. Archer's deal with Boeing looks like they're getting in defense systems along with the got right now. Huh, interesting. Getting back to Reddit, so fundamentals trump technicals in your approach. In my view, yeah. I think that obviously I do take a look at the technicals before I get in or before I decide to exit. But the fundamentals on Reddit are too strong to ignore. And yeah, let's go look at finance or Netflix. Sorry. With respect to Netflix, good day today. So, as I'm sure everybody saw, Netflix's Q2 report wasn't great, and they corrected as a result. And that was about 3 weeks ago. It's been recovering quite a bit since. Is Netflix at an interesting valuation at the moment? Somebody could certainly make the argument for that. The problem with Netflix, though, is that their management moved the goalposts on how to measure their main metric on what to decide what a company, how to decide what the measure of success is for a company like Reddit or for like Netflix. I'm sitting on the sidelines for now, but if somebody has a strong, high conviction bull case for Netflix, I'm all ears. I'm 100% all ears. I'd love to know. How do I think CoreWeave's earnings are going to go? I think they'll probably be right in line with expectations, to be honest. CoreWeave's earnings aren't that, like, to analyze how much money the company is going to make. It's not super hard to project. I think we'll probably see somewhere around $2.5 billion in revenue, and I think net losses will probably be somewhere around $2 a share, maybe a bit more. Am I late for service now or late? Hakai, I already answered that question. What do you think about CEG? Constellation is a good play. The nuclear exposure is interesting, but you're also buying a whole lot of other stuff with it that I think is dilutive to returns, to be honest. NVIDIA's the real one to have long term. You can certainly make the case for that. There's a lot of things to like about NVIDIA. Price range for Take-Two Interactive. My current target price for Take-Two is $2.85. I got to revisit my DCF model, though, and take a look at some other stuff. It may have gone up as a result. Do we miss the move in Microsoft? I don't think so. What do I think about Palantir? Palantir's results as a company are extremely strong. The growth is very, very impressive. The margin growth is even more impressive. A fantastic model that they've got. I'm not a fan of their leadership. I'm not a fan of the valuation. If Palantir corrects to like under $100 a share, which it probably won't, but if it does, I definitely take a look at it for sure. How do you feel about data center stocks long term, like Iran, Applied Digital, and Nebius? I'm not bullish, Blake. I'm bearish. Do you have a DCF template that you share? Jack, you can go check out the link in my bio. I have a DCF model that I have in there. Ondas. Yeah, how's Ondas looking? Okay, so they've had a pretty good month, actually. Yeah. I think it's cool what they're doing. They're getting more expensive, though. And I know that they have, they're getting some contracts here and there. I think with the Australian government, they got one recently. Right here on Yahoo Finance, it says they secured a $50 million Army order, which is good. That's good. So I'm not quite as. Am I going to get into Ondas at this price? We'll see. I need to take a look at their books, though, because with a company like this, they need to use their cash very wisely. Their quality of earnings is good. As a defense contractor, that's high quality of earnings, no doubt. It's their balance sheet health that I'm curious about. Why bearish on data center stocks but bullish on NVIDIA? They're pretty connected. So with NVIDIA, so I don't own any shares of NVIDIA, Chris. And there's some pretty big issues with NVIDIA, particularly in my opinion. I think it does have circular financial relationships with companies it supplies, as well as companies that it's invested in its own customers. That's problematic in some ways. The thing is, with NVIDIA, they're currently setting the standard for GPUs, and I think we're going to see continued demand for GPUs in the near and midterm future. The thing is, with data center stocks and with GPU landlords like CoreWeave and Nebius, they don't have as much pricing power as NVIDIA does, and especially when you take a look at a company like CoreWeave, it also NVIDIA doesn't compete with its customers. Data center companies like CoreWeave and Nebius do. They compete with their customers, and CoreWeave also uses a lot of debt to finance it. So no, I'm not a fan of CoreWeave. And that's the main distinction. Do I think Tesla will go up? Tesla will do what Tesla does. I don't care what Tesla does. I don't get into automotive companies. Tesla, obviously, it's getting the Elon Musk treatment. It's obviously got an insane price to earnings ratio. It's got an insane market cap. People who got into Tesla, say in 2020, 2021, are probably very happy with themselves. But, to be honest, it's like, I don't pay that much for that little earnings. Yeah, no problem, Chris. I appreciate your question. If you want an even further detailed explanation on my bear case for CoreWeave, go to my YouTube channel. Don't you think investing in Ondas is good? Thursday they will report after those contracts. Yeah, somebody could certainly make the case for that. I need to take a closer look at Ondas's balance sheet. Because while we have a $50 million U.S. Army order, those funds haven't been wired to Ondas. It's not like the Army wired them $50 million and said, hey, deliver X number of drones to us. That's probably something that's just a fixed price contract where they'll receive performance-based payments. So the two things with Ondas is that they have to execute. They got to deliver on what they said they would. And the other is they got to make wise use of their cash. So as far as Ondas is concerned, it's probably a great company. There's probably a lot to like about it. It's expensive, though, relative to its earnings, and it needs to have a healthy balance sheet. And in fact, I've got Edgar pulled up right here, and we could just kind of take a quick look. Ondas Inc., and we'll just go to their latest 10Q and look at the interactive data. Can pull this over here. Make sure everybody can see that, okay? Go to the statements, financial statements, and just look at their balance sheet, and we can just kind of compare what the last couple quarters have looked like. So comparing the end of December to March 2026, their cash and equivalence position has improved quite significantly, which is good. Intangible assets got booked up to $312 million, as well as goodwill. Okay, so we need to find out how they do that, on what basis they value their intangible assets, whether it's lifetime value, total, there's a couple of ways to do that. Okay. Really low notes payable, which is good. They've got a grant liability that they're slowly reducing. Oh, that's okay. And they have a warrant liability that went up to over $1 billion. Interesting. Yeah, so that's how. So the main thing to glean from this is we'd have to go look in one of the notes sections on the filing to see like what happened here, what they issued, and what exactly happened. And then the other thing too is why their cash went up so much, as well as how they value their IP and goodwill. And then, of course, taking a look at the other statements as well. So there's a ton of things to look at with Ondas. It feels expensive, though, but it could be an interesting price point. What stocks do I recommend as a hedge against AI and big tech? Consumer defensive. So probably companies like Kroger, the largest grocery store in the United States, isn't a bad idea. This is a very strong consumer defensive play. You can also look at staples like others. So you can look at something like P&G. That could be an interesting one. And to be honest, I think gold is a good hedge as well. 285 TTWO. Yeah, that's what I like. That's my target price for now for Take Two Interactive. NVO, Bryson says. Let's check it out. Yeah, the old Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly debate. To be honest, Bryson, I like the Eli Lilly a little bit more just from a technical perspective, but the thing is that they're both incredibly strong companies. Novo Nordisk is like, the fundamentals for Novo Nordisk are fantastic, and its valuation is good. I don't know why it's treated more defensively than Eli Lilly is, though, which is strange. And finding out why that is important, I think, before you decide which one to go into. So, I favor Eli Lilly purely from the appreciation perspective, but if I'm a pure value shareholder, Novo Nordisk looks slightly better. So you kind of have to decide, I think, is more important to you. Lilly's on a huge run compared to NVO, and they're somewhat comparable. Yeah, they're very similar in a lot of ways. One has a different valuation than the other, and I think it's worth finding out why. I don't know what the exact answer is to that question off the top of my head, though. Too late to buy Rocket Lab? I don't know. Isn't Rocket Lab announcing earnings today? Technically, yes, it is now, because the market just closed. But if you wanted to get in before earnings, Rocket Lab continues to gain traction with impressive Q1 results, showing 63.5% growth and a $2.2 billion backlog. We can actually go look. To see Rocket Lab to acquire Iridium. Latest quarterly results. So they don't. So here's Rocket Lab's investor relation page. I don't see a PDF file for Q2. I think they haven't posted that yet. There's a ton of Rocket Lab's doing a ton of cool stuff. The problem with Rocket Lab, though, is it's a lot of execution risk. Do you think it's a good idea to buy GTA 6 coins and wait till it drops to sell the second it does? No, I don't think that's a good idea. Oh, Q2. I'm sorry, Timon. You're right. Yeah, Rocket Lab's on Wednesday. I got Rocket Lab confused with someone else. It's a volatile stock. It's a volatile stock. There's a lot of things going on with Rocket Lab. It's the execution risk, man. They'll either be successful or they won't. You know? Oh, wait a sec. No, Rocket Lab's today. What am I talking about? Yeah, their webcast is in an hour. No, it's today. What about Nebius? Not a huge fan of Nebius. Doesn't make money. There's a lot of scaling going on. It's not as bad as other neoclouds, though. Just not a huge fan of it. Mark, SoFi, I think, is kind of boring. BE for Bloom Energy. Yeah, I haven't taken a look at Bloom in a while. Wow, we're down to $210 a share. Yeah. Here's the deal. I think so. Bloom obviously had an insane run up in the first and second quarter. Are we going to get back up above $300 a share with Bloom Energy anytime soon? No, I don't think so. I'm not there's some cool things going on with Bloom Energy. Pretty rosy sunglasses, though, when you look at the growth assumptions for them. What stocks am I highly bullish on? Anthony, I'm the two main ones I'm highly bullish on are Take-Two Interactive and Reddit. It'll get to 300, just some time. Well, Palvier, how long is just some time? Is that 2 years or 5 years or 2 weeks? Like what does take some time, just some time mean? Marvel, yeah, how is Marvel doing? Yeah, hanging in there. Marvel's expensive in my opinion. I can see why people like Marvel. To be honest, I would rather buy shares in Micron than Marvel. The fundamentals of Micron are a little bit stronger. Um, there are some different things that they do, but I think the safer move is with Micron. I'd love to see a strong bull case on Marvel though from somebody. Or should I buy Micron or Costco? To be honest, Bryson, I'd rather pick Micron. Costco is a great pay. It's a great defensive play. You're not going to see a ton of room for Costco for growth for Costco though. Um, Obviously it's an insanely good business. Love what they do. How's Costco been this year? It's been all right, pretty good. Um, to be honest, I thought their yield was a little bit higher, but I would take Micron over Costco if I'm keeping it a buck. Genuinely, what should I invest in? Mark, if you're unsure of how to invest or if you're new to investing, I would recommend looking at like index funds. Again, though, like it would take you'd have to take a pretty close look at what your comfort is, what your ability is, that kind of thing. Trade Desk, yeah, how did Trade Desk do? Not great today. Oh man, that hurts. With Trade Desk, it's cool what they're doing. They probably have a nice little moat for themselves. I don't know. This is another sideline for me. But again, though, I'd have to do a little bit more homework on them. I'd have to kind of understand what the growth plan is and how they're going to maybe fix things. Is this a buy the dip opportunity for Trade Desk? I'm not 100% sure. Target price for Take-Two Interactive. Right now it's $285 a share. Rocket Lab released it. They have it. I thought it wasn't until 5. Like another 50 minutes. Thoughts on Celsius and Dutch Bros? Alex, I think Celsius is probably getting some of its oops. I think with Celsius, the concern is they're not turning over inventory as well as they used to, and I think that's just like there's some concern with Celsius. If I'm holding shares in Celsius, if I have shares in Celsius, I'd hang on and kind of wait to see if somebody buys them. Like I could totally see. I know the former CEO of like Rockstar Energy Drink is like an activist and trying to get on their board to turn things around because apparently he knows how to fix things at Celsius. That's cool. I think that's some exciting news. I think what would make it even more exciting is that if Pepsi said, "Yeah, we'll buy Celsius for $35 a share in cash and stock," then I would be excited about it. But as of right now, I think there are signs that it's struggling. I don't know how long it's going to take for that to turn around. So yeah. When will I talk about stocks making or doing something real / tangible like AEM? Well, Celsius makes something tangible. They make beverages. And the other thing too is that there's a ton of competition in the beverage space. It's a brutal there's, it's a brutal business. You got to know what you're doing. If I had to pick between Dutch Bros and Celsius, I'd probably pick Dutch Bros, just because they have more tangible assets on their balance sheet, namely in the real estate, that kind of stuff. So if I had to pick the two of them, it would probably be Dutch Bros. But Dutch Bros is, I mean, I know that they've had good fundamentals. The market's pricing in a lot of growth, though, at the moment for Dutch Bros. There's a decent amount of short interest, too. And again, coffee, you have pretty small margins. Yeah. So what's the beta on Dutch Bros? 1.6. How have they done this year? Ouch. Yeah, that hurts right there. A pretty big dampener on their year. Thoughts on Nike? Ian, I'm bullish on Nike. Go check out my YouTube channel if you want to understand why I'm bullish on them. Light thoughts. Yeah, Lumentum. Dang, what happened today? Oh, man. I always thought they were expensive. I didn't expect to see such a rough day like today, though. What happened with them? Does anyone know what happened with Lumentum today? Did something change? Like, was there a big announcement with them? Photonics sold off hard. Yeah, why though? What's going on? I mean, what about like Coherent? Oh, wow. According to Yahoo Finance, it's profit taking. I mean, a lot of these companies were pretty expensive, but this is a rough day. What company make flock cameras? Those are popping up. I believe flock cameras is like it's just called flock. Yeah, what happened with Photonics today? Yikes, that was pretty brutal. Can we look at Samsara? Nate, do you have a ticker for him? I think going up too much. I mean, it's true. I should have had a strong day, or strong year, I should say. Not wrong. People are getting out. Yeah, maybe. It's pretty expensive, too. Pretty volatile as well. Palantir, so I said it before, I'll say it again. Palantir fundamentally is very impressive. The margin growth and the revenue growth is pretty good. No, I shouldn't say pretty good. It's insanely good. The price is too expensive for me, for my taste, and the leadership I'm not a huge fan of. So, yeah. Coca-Cola. Yeah. Probably one of the best consumer defensive picks ever. They've had a pretty solid year too. They're up what about nearly 20%. You get a 2.4% yield out of them with a 0.34 beta. That's good. There's a lot of things to like about Coca-Cola. I think no matter how rough things may get in the markets or how big of an economic recession we may end up facing in the future, these guys are going to stick around. Probably some of the most valuable IP in the world. One could certainly say the most valuable IP in the world. Ton of things to like about Coca-Cola. If you want like defensive exposure with a decent yield, these are good. It's a very good one. In the car, go look at my YouTube channel for Nike. Overall, I'm bullish on Nike. Thoughts on the timeline when SMR becomes profitable? Not sure how nuclear energy is now. It may be a while, Alex, and that's probably because it's the regulatory hurdles I think are going to be the problem for the nuclear players. I mean, here's like SMR has not. This is bad. Like this is rough. And the execution risk is bigger with nuclear than it is with solar, especially now that sodium-based batteries are a thing now. So I preferred solar to nuclear, and honestly, I'm still kind of in that camp. So Coca-Cola is a good one, you think? Yeah, I think it is. Second favorite stock, I know Take-Two is my first. I don't Reddit, RGDT. How are we feeling about mineral stocks? If it's rare earth, it could be interesting. USAR could be one of them. But if it's gold and silver, I don't want anything to do with it. If it's a gold and silver miner, I don't care. I don't pay attention to them at all. The futures market's way more interesting. And like if I want to invest in gold and silver, just go after the commodity itself. Why put a business in the way of that? I think it's silly to invest in gold miners. But if you want exposure to different stuff like rare earth metals, like samarium, palladium, all these types of things, USAR could be an interesting pick. I think it's pretty volatile though. I mean, a 2.6 beta is nothing to scoff at. And I mean, here's how it's been since the beginning of the year. So you got to have good conviction on these guys. How about these closed-end funds like GAB or CLM for good income yield? Is this a private credit? No, it's a mutual fund. If you're into closed-end funds, Anonymous, or if that's something that's interesting to you, I'd look at the expense ratio. That's the main thing I'd pay attention to. What'd you say about gold? I just missed it. I like gold as a macro hedge. And honestly, I think that what's gold trading at today? Wow. Dang. We really saw strong support for gold at 3,800 a share. Let's actually look at it in Yahoo Finance here. Oops. Oops, no, wrong one. I prefer Barron's. Yeah, I mean, overall, I'm a big fan of gold. It's a great macro hedge. Definitely think it's worth hanging on to, especially if you're sensitive to interest rates or you want exposure to that kind of stuff. Thoughts on Felix is a mutual fund, semiconductor heavy. Alex, I mean, I guess, but why not go for an ETF? Typically, your expense ratio is going to be lower with an ETF. Can we check IoT Samsara? So they have an interesting business. I need to understand it a little bit more, to be honest. And I think, were they just profitable? Like, I know they've been kind of, yeah. Here's what their results look like quarter over quarter. Okay, no, they were profitable back a couple months back. I'd be interested to know why their margin's so thin for what they do. So their income statement is something that I'd be interested in checking out. So Nate, as far as like, do I like them or not? I can't say for sure yet. I got to do more homework on them. SoFi, I don't like with SoFi. AMD in the near future. I don't get why you would buy shares in AMD. AMD is way too expensive. Like Nvidia is just better. There's like, tell me why I should pick AMD over Nvidia. Seriously, I'd love to know. I like AMD CEO. I think Lisa Su has done a good job of trying to, make the changes that she has, but it's not close. And SoFi, honestly, like they've had a bad year, and there's been a lot of resistance at the $20 per share level. Thoughts on T1 Energy? Not a ton, to be honest. Still need to do a bit of homework on them. It's not good though. Like their fundamentals are not great. Yeah, Rocket Lab's in the dumps. Yeah, how's Rocket Lab doing? I know that they're announcing today. Yeah, this is. Let's see if we have any updated news. Here we go. Bing, bang, boom. Got the PDF. Okay. God, they really pack it in this small. Here, hang on. I'm going to zoom in. Oops. Sorry, guys. 1 sec. Okay, so here's Rocket Lab's Q1 results. Yeah, I can't really scale it that well, but yeah, blah, 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 blah. Cool rockets, cool things that they're doing. Pretty sweet. Okay, so we saw 234 million in revenue. And things have been growing, which is good. Not bad. GAAP gross margin is sitting at about 36%. So it's the backlog that people like. This is a pretty healthy balance too between commercial and government. That's not bad. 2.4 billion in backlog. What is okay, operating expenses? GAAP R&D and so they do a lot of so they probably do some creative accounting because they specifically highlight non-GAAP R&D and non-GAAP SG&A as lower. Non-GAAP R&D and SG&A expense reconciliations can be found in our earnings. Yeah, okay, so there's some reconciliations that need to be looked at. Earnings per share got worse. Makes sense. Free cash flow got worse. Probably not super surprising. So it's gonna. So we'd have to look at the fine print for Rocket Lab. There's probably some good news to glean from this. There's probably some things to pay close attention to. I mean, like my overall thoughts on them, I probably haven't changed too much, to be honest. It's a lot of execution risk, and I'm curious to know like why they're reporting GAAP and non-GAAP. I'm sure that maybe there's some contingent liabilities that they want to point out on their books. Who knows? I mean, I don't know. How would you describe the AI bubble? Remember, you said you believed in it too. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, I think that the AI bubble. Overall, I do think that we were in a bubble. We've been in a very impressive bull market over the last couple of years. Most of that, the reason why we've been in a big bull market is because of CapEx spending on AI that stretched valuations across all different kinds of companies, whether it's semiconductors, memory, whether it's the Mag 7, whether all types of different industries, real estate, all types of stuff, construction. I mean, Caterpillar had an insane run over the last year. And as a result, valuations have gotten stretched. Prices gone up quite high. And there are some macro concerns, specifically with interest rates. And there are also some concerns about the actual probability of success of a lot of this. So, yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think that as far as a bubble is concerned, it's in a lot of places. There's also a lot of concern about private credit. Private credit is what's going on with private credit's a little bit scary. That's also something that's people need to take a close look at, but you can't with private credit. That's part of the problem. You can't look very closely at it. AMD makes their own chips. I think NVIDIA decides what manufacturing subcontracted out. That's why. So, JM, is that why you would pick AMD over NVIDIA? Or are you just like making the observation? Earnings this month for Oracle and Marvel. I'd be very interested to see what Oracle's going to say about what's going on with their OpenAI backlog. I mean, Oracle's earnings look good and their forward PE looks good because OpenAI said they'd spend a lot of money with them. Is that actually going to end up happening? I think that there's reason to question that it actually will. What do you think of Snapchat's Q2 results? I haven't looked at Snapchat's Q2 results, to be honest. I think Snapchat is this isn't like, it's not I think their moat is eroding. I'm not like with Snapchat, it's been losing money for a while. It's got a pretty small niche, and I think it's getting smaller. To be honest, I'm not super bearish on that or bullish on them. Hasn't been a great year for Snapchat. Obviously, I could take a look at the readings. It's not that exciting. Is Nike a buy? I think so, yeah. Check out the results. Sure. Not impressive. These are not impressive results for a high margin social media business. Basically an advertising company. Their market penetration isn't nearly as good as someone like Meta or something like this. Now, obviously, that's like comparing apples and bowling balls, but you know, they're in similar lines of business. It's got a bloated balance sheet. No, this isn't impressive to me. They were good results, but I like that it barely moved the needle when you zoom out, I think. It hasn't been good at all for Snapchat. That's right. I don't understand how they got like 100 million users or more. You can have a ton of users, but if you can't monetize them, then you essentially have an app that doesn't make money. Have you taken a look at Intuitive Surgical? We agree that as a great moat. What do you think? And Dranigo, I'm glad you asked. I posted my deep dive on my YouTube channel to Intuitive Surgical. I want to love Intuitive Surgical. Their moat is insane. There's a ton of things to love about Intuitive Surgical. The problem is with Intuitive Surgical, it's tough because they're expensive relative to their peer group, and Intuitive Surgical makes its money from surgery volume, and it makes most of its money on the components it replaces. So whether that's like electrocauterizers, certain scalpels, or whatever that you put on the end of a Da Vinci machine, that's where they make most of their margin. That's how they make most of their revenue, is literally the parts for their machines. And then, you know, they've got lease contracts for the systems themselves. They make more money from smaller medical groups than they do from larger ones. But it's all about volume. You need a lot of people getting soft tissue surgery for Intuitive Surgical to do well. I think the market is priced in too optimistically. And my target price for Intuitive Surgical is much lower than this. So, I believe that Intuitive Surgical's my target price on my YouTube channel, I think I put it $200 a share. A lot of people say, what the hell? That's extremely pessimistic. But when you look at the growth required for them in order to achieve that, it's they have to find new customers, and they've got to expand. to justify today's price. I think it's too much. I want to buy stock in this company so bad. The moat's insanely good. But I can't. I feel like we'd have more success shorting the market at this point. Honestly, Queenish Shenanigans, my highest conviction plays are my shorts at the moment. This is I know I say I'm long, I'm bullish on Take-Two Interactive and Reddit. This is my highest conviction play though, by far. I'm short CoreWeave. I closed one of my short positions on ShortWeave, or I closed one of my short positions on CoreWeave. I took profits on one of them. Still hold short positions in this company. And this is my highest conviction play. And I know they got their earnings coming out tomorrow. I'd imagine they'll probably be pretty close with estimates. So we'll see if the market likes that or not. Can we take a look at SK Hynix? Yeah. And you're welcome, Andragos. Absolutely. I love doing it. I love doing this stuff, especially the long form stuff where I go into detail. Would you rather hold Tesla or Micron? Micron, and it's not even close. Thoughts on Kopin? None at the moment, Max, because Baymax, because I haven't heard of him. All right, what are we looking at? This is Snowflake. $6 billion deal with Amazon Web Services and a strong push in AI tools. Well, it's been a great year for Snowflake. That's awesome. It's what's the market cap? $115 billion market cap for this. Whoa. And this is what you get for buying a $115 billion business. You get a lot of debt. No money being made. Free cash flow negative. I mean, operating cash flow in Q1 was $800 million, or about $800 million according to Barron's. Okay, so they got some big non-cash stuff. I'd imagine that's stock-based compensation expense because they went public fairly recently. I don't know, man. It feels expensive. I can take a look and do the real homework on Snowflake, but here's the thing: like, they're at 52-week highs right now, and they're near all-time highs. Honestly, like I'd have to take a look at do the technicals and look at the technicals on Snowflake. It's probably worth shorting, to be honest. In fact, I'm gonna go look at TradingView. Please check TTWO. I've done Take-Two Interactive. Go to my YouTube channel if you want to know about Take-Two Interactive. And if you want to know about CoreWeave, go to my YouTube channel. Very bullish on TTWO. Very bearish on CoreWeave. Snowflake. Let's look. Okay, I know this isn't the best view for you guys, but here's the RSI on them. Yeah, I mean, it's entering overbought territory. It's testing the upper limits of its Bollinger Band, and it's way above its 100-day SMA. I'd imagine we'll probably see, like, there could be some more solid price, like, there could be more positive price action out of this, but this is kind of nuts. Yeah, that's that. Honestly, it'd probably be a good time to short Snowflake, but it takes more work. At the moment, I'm currently increasing my cash position, waiting for October midterm Fed, Iran, etc. Yeah, not a bad idea. I'd say if you're going to increase your cash, you may as well increase your holdings in gold as well. As someone who works with Snowflake almost every day, I assure you it's not overbought. Why not? Why isn't it overbought? I'd love to hear. And I'm not like, asking to like I'm genuinely curious. Bearish CoreWeave never. Okay. CoreWeave is not a good business at all. And SanDisk, yeah, how's SanDisk doing? Okay, decent day for SanDisk. Yeah. So the story with SanDisk, I mean, people are always wondering, like, is SanDisk a little bit expensive at the moment? I still think it is. Are we going to go back up to $2,200 a share in the near future? Probably not. the The good news with SanDisk is that the fundamentals are there. The bad news is it got rough guidance for the first quarter of 2027. I'd really like to know. Snowflake Cocoa is legit one of the most impressive pieces of software I've ever experienced. But why does that make so? I've never used Snowflake before, and that might be true. You have a more informed opinion on that than I do. But why does that mean it's not overbought? Why does good software mean that it's not expensive as a company? COPN might run in the future due to Photonics. I know Photonics had a rough day today. Oh yeah, I remember these guys. Yeah, this is a pretty expensive stock. It's pretty like it's cool what they do, but man, not cheap. Do I like Redwire? JR, I think Redwire's a little expensive. I'd love to see a strong bull case for Redwire though. And Callum, IONQ. IONQ, I'm not. It's too early for me for Quantum. If somebody has a better idea of where they think Quantum's headed, though, like if you think I'm sure there are plenty of people who know more. There are plenty of people who know more about Quantum than I do, but if people are more familiar about the commercial use cases for Quantum, the near-term commercial use cases for Quantum, I'd love to hear about it. Thoughts on Hood and Amazon? Robinhood is cool. I'd rather take Amazon though. Legacy infrastructure surrounding data warehouses is still so prevalent. Snowflake will win those over the competition, which is limited right now. Okay, I mean, yeah, I'll go take a look. And I'll go take a look at Snowflake's filings. As far as the stock itself, though, it feels like it's trading at a pretty expensive valuation, and it feels like, I mean, based on the signals that I've looked at, and I haven't looked at all of them, but it looks like it's in overbought territory at the moment. So it would be a short purely from a technical perspective. As far as the fundamentals are concerned, I still need to look at that. I'm still looking into Rheinmetall. I am, Olaf. I'm kind of debating on what my next deep dive should be. I know Rheinmetall is up there. I've been thinking about doing IBM though. Google, Timon, Google's a fantastic pick. Love Google. I mean, their Q2 results were extremely good. The thing that worries me a little bit about Google is those 4 key guys leaving. If you had to choose between SOXX, SOXL, or IWM to buy, which one would it be and why? Jira, I'd have to think about that. That's a good question. I don't like levered ETFs. So I would probably avoid this. But To be honest, maybe SOXS. I'd have to give that more thought, though. Really have to give that more thought. Been loving Elephant Service now. Run up 50%, 25 grand. Nice. Well done. Awesome. How long do I expect IonQ in the quantum sector to start gaining momentum? I don't know, Callum. That's a good question. I think it could be 24 months. I mean, if we look at a company like Rigetti Computing, which is one of the big quantum players at the moment, their income statement is pretty ugly. And so is IonQ's. And they're right now they're doing things, both Rigetti and IonQ and other quantum players. They're vertically integrating. And they're doing that to help save expenses, but a lot of money's going into R&D. It's a money pit at the moment. It's really a big money pit. Do you trade live trade in your premium? No, I don't day trade. Is Netflix a good buy at these current prices? I don't know. This is a tough one. I to be honest, no, because in order for me to be comfortable in getting into Netflix, I would have to get access to information that's very difficult to get access to, and that's essentially what management's plan is, to kind of turn things around and how they're going to measure success moving forward. Their Q2 guidance was ugly. Their valuation purely at a 24 PE and an okay beta and like a solid market cap and it being in correction territory relative to the first quarter, a lot of people would say, oh, it's a great time to get in. And you could certainly make that argument, but that might be for a reason. So, yeah. Have we looked at Paramount? We've, no. How is that doing right now? Okay. I do know that it's currently in legal limbo, the merger with Warner Brothers. So, I don't know. I'm not sure how Paramount Skydance is going to kind of pull through this. I know a federal judge kind of shut it down, and the FTC and the FCC are looking at it. We'll see. I don't know. I'd avoid Paramount, to be honest, because everything for them hinges on that Warner Brothers deal. Yeah. Uber or CoreWeave? Uber. 100%. Take Uber. Rigetti Micron at 660 or Google at its current valuation long term? Chris, how do you define long term? Like, is long term like over the next year, or is it like more than 5 years? What do you mean? $20 Google. If that's, I would pick Google. I still wish Warner Brothers went to Netflix. It was probably going to face the same scrutiny regardless of where they went. So my number one pick. Are we talking bullish or bearish? Rio Polo. Opinion on Chinese stock. Xiaomi, of course, regulations are a massive problem. Other stuff. I know that there are some Chinese companies that are absolute titans. They're juggernauts. I mean, Alibaba, Huawei. Like, there's a ton of Chinese companies that are fantastic. As far as like what, at a very basic philosophical level, I don't love the idea of investing into Chinese companies because I know that the PRC is a shareholder in almost every single business in that country, and they kind of get to dictate how things go. And if they suddenly decide something that I don't agree with as an investor, I'm totally powerless. Set my cash on fire or CRW? Come on, that was funny. Are we talking about CoreWeave? To be honest, I'd short it. So don't set your cash on fire. Short it. I love to hear bearish. My biggest bearish pick and my biggest bullish pick. You're looking at my biggest bearish pick right now. My biggest bullish pick, honestly, it's close. I think Reddit has more room for growth than Take Two Interactive, but they're both really good. So TTWO and Reddit are my biggest bullish picks. Would you rather buy Japanese stocks? Yes, I would. Best undervalued stock at the moment? Reddit, I think, to be honest. There are others out there. I know the reason why I say Reddit and I say it so quickly is because I've done my homework on this company. I've done a very in-depth deep dive in Reddit. And there's a lot of things that I like about the company and fundamentally are very strong. But there are others out there. Do you not think Reddit's a little too high to buy in currently? No, Zach, I don't. I don't. How much percentage am I keeping in cash and why? It's less than 10%, Olaf. And the reason is because I'm concerned about it's inflation's a concern of mine at the moment. And I don't think that things are I think we're probably gonna see inflation get worse before we see it get better. Now I know that the bond market's doing a lot of. Kevin Warsh said it himself. He said that the bond market's doing a lot of work that the Fed already does to begin with. So rates are going up. That we could see a reversal and a strengthening dollar as a result of that. But there are a lot of macro things at play that the dollar's exposed to that I'm not super stoked about. So it's less cash than it was before, and I move more money into gold. Thoughts on SpaceX long term, 3 years plus? We'll see, Noah. I mean, with SpaceX, very long term, I'm bullish on SpaceX. It's the only company or the only organization I know of that actually has the serious capability of heavy lift and heavy lift launch, beyond Earth orbit capabilities. Like they're the only ones with the real tangible ability to conceivably do that at the moment. They're the only ones that have massively reduced the costs of getting things into orbit because of Falcon, because of Falcon Heavy, all this type of stuff. The merger with SpaceX and XAI was weird. And the idea of putting data centers into space, I think that's ambitious. And SpaceX said it themselves. They think their biggest total accessible market is AI. It's not actually outer space. So we'll see. US dollar screwed. Do not hold cash. Have all your money in something that appreciates. We'll see how the dollar ends up doing. I think the big thing to pay attention to with what's going on with the dollar is how the U.S. Treasury is trying to protect the yen carry trade. Yeah, this is a little concerning. With respect to the yen carry trade, I'm not like it's bond yields are converging between the 10-year and in Japan and the U.S. That's concerning. The U.S. heavily relies on that, and we may see foreign investors dump U.S. Treasuries. It's not a great thing for rates, so we'll see. Do you not trust space companies? It's not that I don't trust them. It's just that I don't trust what. No, it's a weird path that they're taking. I don't think that they're taking the most the most direct path to like getting data centers into space, like what Elon Musk talked about. I don't think they're taking the most direct path and getting a moon base set up or eventually putting people on Mars. Palantir or Nebius? Ugh. Palantir. but Palantir's probably going to correct. We'll see, though. Thoughts on Take-Two's earnings? I liked what I saw. I was very impressed. Their management said they have never seen anything like they saw before the GTA 6 pre-order numbers. We're at $1.4 billion. And we're still months out from seeing what's going to end up happening with the release of Grand Theft Auto 6. I'm very bullish on that release. I think it's going to be, they're going to knock it out of the park. And it had a good day today. Rocket Lab and ASTS earnings, what do you think will happen? I know that Rocket Lab was about on guidance. ASTS I didn't see. With both of them, it's a big execution risk, and they're both kind of settling. They're in SpaceX's shadow. I mean, we got to be honest with ourselves. Got in at Take-Two at 198. Nice. It's a good spot to be. I think you should hang on to it. If I looked at Swiss stocks, of course they're slower, which make you profit from the currency. No, I have not actually. No. Still owning on AMD, and I'm still up, but sell now or hold. Fundamentals are still intact. Depends on when you got in, Real Polo. I mean, with AMD, AMD does stuff that's good. They're good at doing some things. Their valuation is extremely high relative to their earnings, especially within their peer group. And I don't get why you would buy shares in this company as opposed to an NVIDIA. Is CoreWeave still a short? Yep. Absolutely is. Concerns that GTA 6 might be worse than expected. What do people have to complain about? Already. Got into TTW at 230. Should I hold it? My target price for TTW is 285. So do what you will with that info. Is Qualcomm undervalued? One could make the case for it. I need to look at the books though, because what's interesting is that since last year we've seen the price relative to earnings of companies like Qualcomm and Applied Materials diverge pretty hard. So it almost kind of reminds me of a ServiceNow Salesforce type situation. One's getting a better treatment than the other, and I need to know why. So there's a lot to like about Qualcomm. It had a very interesting run up in the second quarter. I need to look at their books. They'll still pay for it. Yeah, people absolutely will still pay for GTA 6. Is CoreWeave a good buy? No. No, it's not. Am I shorting Snowflake? I might. We're getting pretty lofty with Snowflake. I mean, here's what Snowflake looks like in TradingView right now. I just got the RSI, and this is a 1 hour interval. And this is basically what Snowflake has looked like since June. We're significantly above the 100-day SMA, testing the upper limits of its Bollinger Band, and here's what the RSI right here says. So it's not as dramatic as it has been in the past. And I know they had pretty good earnings. People are pretty stoked about the Amazon Web Services contract. I don't know though. I'm still going to do more work on it though. Can we talk oil? How's oil doing? Yeah, let's see how it is. See how Exxon's doing. Not bad today. Looks like a lot of this was a buyback though. How is the price of Brent and WTI? Let's do this. 83, 84 barrel for Brent right now. And as far as WTI, I'd imagine it's $82 a barrel. So as far as oil is concerned, I mean, that entirely weighs upon what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz in the Middle East. So I don't know. As far as energy is concerned, and as far as Exxon's concerned, I think that Exxon is it. Again, I kind of I would treat like Exxon or Chevron or Royal Dutch Shell or any of these massive oil companies kind of like a defensive play. Um, I mean, you're gonna get I mean, a 0.17 beta is insanely good. At a 2.7% yield is very that's not bad. Incredibly good defensive play. Yeah, and $1.03 per share in dividends is not bad. It's good. No, I'm not buying AMD, which is Yellow Holdings right now. I got in around 250. That depends on you. You need to determine if you're happy with those profits or not. You say Reddit's a safe stock or more of a risky one? Bit of what do you mean by, like, are you asking me if I would buy it or sell it? I don't understand what your question means. Idea about Micron and SK Hynix. Ryan, they're both extremely good. The fundamentals are strong for both of them. So it's a question of whether or not you want American or Korean exposure. Buy and hold it for like years, like 5 to 10 years for Reddit. Yeah, I unless things drastically change in a couple of years with Reddit, I like it as it is. Its performance in its advertising business has been insanely good. It's gotten punished over the last couple of days and weeks because when it announced its earnings, they said we're still trying to find a way to win with Google on AI content licensing. So the market said, "Oh, that's bad." And they sold off a little bit. For me, I'm like, I'm going to buy more shares. Are you kidding me? The revenue growth and daily active user growth, especially internationally for Reddit, very impressive. Can you explain why Reddit is why Reddit's a great choice? And Drango, you should go to my YouTube channel. That's where you're going to get the detailed answer. Why Snap be like Reddit advertising business? I think Snap is more people. That's an interesting thought. Reddit probably has lower overhead, I would imagine. Anyway, guys, I got to run. I got to call it a day. But I appreciate everyone's interest. I really loved the conversations today. I had a ton of fun talking with y'all. Thank you for everybody who decided to hit the follow button. 52 of you today. Thank you so much, guys. This is your first time hanging out here. I appreciate everyone hanging out. I could live stream every day, so I'll be back tomorrow. And we'll kind of pay attention and see how the market is tomorrow. Obviously, some big movers today. Archer Aviation was a pretty popular move as a result of the Boeing contract. There's, Photonics had kind of a rough day. We'll see how memory and semiconductors do tomorrow. We got some big earnings this week for NeoClouds. CoreWeave's tomorrow. Nebius is on Wednesday. So some interesting moves on that front. And also got some interesting tips from you guys on what's going on with some other companies I haven't looked at in a while, like Snowflake. I think Snowflake is in an interesting spot. ASTS, please, before you go. R6 Daddy, I'm on the sidelines for that stock. It's pretty risky execution-wise. And even still, they have to defend their moat pretty hard from a company like SpaceX. And it looks like things aren't going great for them. So I wasn't a huge fan of them at the valuation that they were earlier, like at the beginning of the month. To be honest, still not that stoked about them. So, yeah. Anyway, guys. If you want to join tomorrow, you're more than welcome to. But make sure you hit the follow button here on TikTok so that way you get notified whenever I'm live. The other thing, too, is if you guys want more detailed answers, if you guys aren't satisfied with an answer I gave this on live stream, I totally understand. Go to my YouTube channel, because on my YouTube channel, that's where I do my deep dives. And also, Send me your requests. A couple of people want me to do like I've been thinking about doing a deep dive on IBM. Some people asked me to do Rheinmetall, the European defense contractor. But send me a DM of what you want to see a deep dive of. And we'll kind of go from there. When do I start? Bob, I usually go live around between 2 and 3 Eastern time US. And I'm usually on for a couple of hours or so. So come stop by. Make sure you hit follow. And we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Everyone have a great night. See ya.